What is up, everybody? Welcome into another episode of Talk to Me here on notfest.com. As always, I'm your host, Joshua Toomey, joined by the one, the only Chris Aiken. Chris, how we doing?
Awesome, man. What's happening?
Not much, man. We did the new format this week where the interview came out on Tuesday. So if you guys want to go back and check out my interview with Levi Benson of Miss May I, that was a fun interview, man. And he got pretty candid towards the end, talking about the old days of MySpace and early days of Facebook. And it was a good time.
Right. Yeah, it was a good interview. It's funny. At least your interview happened. Mine, I slept through because I suck. I was supposed to talk to him Sunday, but I didn't get any confirmation until like Sunday at like 7:30 in the morning. And for anybody who doesn't know, I do the CMS until 3 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
And then by the time I process all the video and shit, I'm going to bed at like 5 or 6. So I get an email at 7:30 in the morning saying, "Hey, Levi, I'll be on with you at noon." No, he won't.
Well, as we sat down to record this today, I had my tomorrow interview email me saying, "Hey, we're here, we're ready to go."
Oh,
and I'm
boy.
like, the interview's tomorrow.
Yeah.
It's just been one of those weeks, man. I guess something's in the water.
Yeah. Well, it works out that way sometimes. Isn't it crazy though how many interviews don't pan? If people only knew how many interviews we get ready for that don't happen versus how many do, they'd be like, why do you even bother? Because there are a lot to cancel.
Dude, ever since I sat and said that I was not going to do as many interviews and like we were just going to do more of these and less interviews.
Sure.
My inbox is just blowing up with like people I just can't say no to. It's insane.
Well, as long as they show up for them, that's fine.
Yeah, it is fine. We are always looking for ratings, reviews, comments, all that stuff. And I wanted to read an iTunes review.
All right.
That we did not get. That this is an iTunes review for the Decibel Geek podcast.
Okay.
The headline is "More Aiken, Please."
Wow.
So they got 5 stars from Elizabeth Gaines. Love the way Decibel Geek finds new creative ways to reinvent the podcast. Your latest episode on Pantera was excellent. You need to have Chris Aiken on your show again. In fact, I know the perfect episode for his return. With Eddie Trunk's recent throwdown between 5150 and Eat 'em and Smile, it would be a great topic for a Decibel Geek debate, especially since it's pretty well known that Aiken likes Sammy Hagar, and while Aaron loathes Sammy Hagar. Thanks for all the hard work you do to put into your podcast. It's much appreciated on my end.
Wow.
So A, that's on the Decibel Geek podcast. B, I was on that episode with
No, you were. It was all me.
No love for me. So
and see, it's a girl.
Yeah,
Usually,
and it's a girl. So what the hell's going on around here?
Usually the women loathe me. Well, thank you. What's her name? Elizabeth?
Elizabeth Gaines. So head on over to the Talk to Me podcast if you're listening to this and leave a nice 5-star rating, nice 5-star review. And
request that Aaron comes over here and does this with us sometime. How about that?
Maybe that's what we need to do. Maybe if we have Aaron on the show, then that's when you get the first you get the Aaron, then you get the 5-star reviews.
Sure. Well, it is our turn. We did theirs.
Yeah, I guess we should have them back on.
Yeah.
And I'll throw that out once again. My old band 12 Volt Negative Earth will be playing Dark Matter in Nashville September 18th. As a reunion show for Lucy's Record Shop, 30th anniversary of that club. Thankfully, we came in towards the end of Lucy's Record Shop, so the band's not 30 years old yet, but it is getting very close, and that just makes me feel and sound ancient.
Well, that's where you're going to get your 5-star reviews on Yelp for the record shop.
Yeah, I'm going to pass out some. I got a cool idea for some picks, and I put in the order. You did the QR code form and stuff like that. So hopefully, by the time of the show, and if not by the time of the show, then at Louder Than Life, I'll have them to kind of hand out to people.
Very cool.
Be cool to have some Talk to Me guitar picks. So if you collect guitar picks out there, let me know, and I'll get you a handful.
Very good. And it'll only be $30.
Yeah, $30 plus shipping and handling. And if you send them back, there's a restock fee.
And he'll sign one letter on each pick that you purchase.
Before we dive into topics today, I want to bring up something you talked about on this Chris Aiken Presents.
Yeah.
And you were talking about Thursday Night Football going streaming.
Yes.
The only problem I have with Thursday Night Football going streaming and all of these things going towards streaming is how far, like, the technology is not there yet to make it fast enough to where there's not a good lag. If you're on Twitter, on Facebook, or even people watching the game on TV, hitting you up being like, oh my God, I can't believe that just happened. Like getting a text.
Right.
And that's the only thing. So the last few years watching football here, because I'm out of market for my Tennessee Titans, is I have to put my phone on silent and with the face down to watch the game, because so many times because I have NFL Sunday Ticket, but I have it streaming.
Sure.
And so there's lag. And it's a good 15, 20 seconds behind, and Twitter and everything else is so fast that it'll just be like turnover, blah, 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 or something.
Yeah, exactly. I'll get that all the time. My friends will be texting me, did you see that Chubb run? And I'll look up and I'll be like, okay, 3rd and 2. I'll be like, what? And then it'll happen. I'm like, oh, you fucking blew it for me. God damn it.
So that's the only thing I think that that's the only thing that they're going to have to figure out is somehow speed it up.
They'll figure it out. Well, either that or just delay the antenna broadcast.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think they would do that to counteract, but it'd
be easier.
Right.
It would be easier to put delay. I mean, dude, I worked on commercial radio forever. I know all about delay. It's easy to put 2 minutes of delay into a system. I mean, you never, that's the one thing that's never, and I hate to turn this into the talk tech me here today, but
talk tech me.
But I mean, as a tech, I can tell you the delay, they're never going to be able to synchronize it. They're just never going to be able to do it because it all varies on internet speed. I've got the fiber here, so I could probably be as close to real time as you could get. I'm assuming you don't have the fiber there, so you're going to have a big latency compared to what I can download. So, it's never going to be perfect, but they'll, in the end, I'm sure with the NFL, with how much they care about the people, they won't do a damn thing. They'll just say, fuck you, just spend your money.
We already got billions from you. Take what you get.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking forward to it. Have you watched the broadcast yet? Did you watch the preseason?
I did not. No, I did not.
It's pretty slick, dude. I'll tell you, on a big screen, I was watching it on my TV in my bedroom, which is a 55. So it's not huge, but it's not tiny. And just watching it, it's all 4K and they have like the best cameras. I mean, you've seen bad football games and it always looks hazy, and especially in streaming when the ball, it's kind of like when you watch hockey on TV and they hit the puck and you don't quite see it moving, you just know it did. They've eliminated all of that with the Amazon. However Amazon's doing it is going to be the way the whole NFL does it, because it just looks fantastic. So
you're talking about watching hockey on TV. There's nothing worse if you're watching hockey and like a fly or a bug lands on the TV and you think that's the puck for a while, and you're like, why is everybody not going to the puck? And
why is it moving? Dude, are you old enough to remember when they tried to make hockey more of a TV sport? So they put in a GPS thing that made the puck blue on the screen. And then it just looked like people were shooting at each other. It looked like with tracer rounds or something. It was like, pew, pew, pew.
What's crazy about that is I was listening to a business podcast and they were talking about the business of that.
Okay.
And I guess that technology led to like it didn't work in hockey, but it worked. And now they've put it into other things. And I think that's the technology that they use for the first down lines in football is like somehow the same technology that they had in that, and the glowing puck in the hockey or something. It's I'm not 100%, but I think that's what that came from.
Dude, I saw a thing last year where not in games or preseason or anything, but in like testing, they made the ends of the football clear. and they put in like some kind of camera that's like on a gyro.
Oh,
so it will spin, and they're trying to make it so that when they throw the ball, you can actually see the ball.
No, it's too much, man. It's like the helmet cam. It's like I don't need to see the helmet cam.
Yeah, I don't like the helmet cam at all. When they were doing that in, what was that, XFL or AAF or one of them, the helmet cam blows. All you see is a bunch of people shaking around and their heads slapping back.
Right.
You know? Can you imagine what it looked like seeing Derrick Henry's helmet? As many hard hits as that dude takes to the head.
That's right. How many hard hits he hands out?
Well, he hands them out too, but still, can you imagine watching his helmet cam? Wow, you would get fucking motion sick.
Quickly before we get into music news, you're a Cleveland Browns fan, so what is your give me a record prediction?
8-9.
All right.
I don't see them. I do not see it being a good year. I know everybody here, I listen to sports talk here, and the predictions are ridiculous. I mean, it is absolutely, well, if they go 7-4 with Brissett, and then when Deshaun, and I'm like, they're not going 7-4 with Brissett. They're going to be lucky to go 6-5, maybe 5-6 would be good. Wouldn't shock me if they went 4-7 with them. He's not very good, and he has no one to throw to.
Right.
You know, so there's that piece. And then the other piece is then we're expecting an all-pro to hit the field week 12 that hasn't played in 2 years.
Yeah. By the time he hits the field, it'd be almost 2 years. Wow.
Yeah. It's like, he's going to have significant rust. He's not going to come into the first game and throw 5 touchdowns and 500 yards. He's going to be at like $180 and 3 picks, you know? So I mean, I'm more optimistic about next year. You know, this year I'm kind of like, got a good team, not a great team. And Brissett is not the answer to me. I mean, you watched him more than I did. Can we expect wins from that guy?
Yeah, I mean, he wasn't bad with the Colts. I thought he was all right. He's serviceable, you know. I'll take it.
Serviceable ain't getting you a championship,
right?
Unless you're Trent Dilfer.
Right. I'll give you my quick Titans one. I think I'm gonna go 11-6 and 3 seed in the playoffs.
And how far in the playoffs? Super Bowl, baby.
At least 1 win.
Who do they got to get past? The Chiefs?
Chiefs and Bills.
They can get past the Bills. I'm not sold on the Bills. I know they were good last year. I'm not sold. I'm just not sold on it. You know, I just think Josh Allen he's good, but I just don't see him as this all-world guy yet. I just don't. I would say the Chiefs are still, until somebody beats the Chiefs are still the team. Kind of like Golden State in basketball.
Right.
Until somebody takes them out for good, then they're still viable, you know?
Right.
So.
All right. Well, oh yeah, me too, man. I think what we'll do in the future is maybe leave this stuff till the end of the show. So if you're not a football guy, then you can just turn it off towards the end. But I'm sure, like, I've just been listening to who's been getting cut, who's been getting picked up, what our practice squad looks like. Like, I am just a football, nerd.
Well, we can swing this back to music. You know, in Hail the Leaf news, Josh Gordon signing with the Titans, right?
he's flying in for a tryout.
All right, well, there you go.
And they were joking on the radio that they're like, he led the league in receiving yards in 2013. It is now 2022.
He was damn good that year, though. Oh boy,
he was good. Like that. I mean, he's definitely wasted talent. Like he was a great receiver.
Yeah, just a waste.
And speaking of waste,
yes,
let's start out with Anthrax wasting money. Anthrax cancels their European tour due to out of control cost and logistical issues.
I think that's a trend we are really starting to see a lot of now. Everybody has to stay at home. It's weird because, forever, and you've interviewed a million bands and I've interviewed a million bands. The bands that are overseas for us here in the States, constantly have told us that the reason they don't come over with every album is the cost.
Right.
And you know, unless they've reached some big level, you know, they can't afford to come here. And I don't think we've ever really, here in the States, I think we're spoiled. I don't think we've ever really thought about it too much. But now with the crazy prices of everything, it's really limiting people. It's limiting the biggest bands. Like Anthrax is a pretty big band. And they
Especially
can't go
overseas.
and they can't afford to go overseas. That's kind of crazy. And even more, you know, still a big band, but not as big. The whole Striper thing here in the States. Striper can't afford to tour because they can't find a tour bus.
So I've got a good friend of mine, tour bus driver. He's been on the podcast a long time ago. I grew up with him, but he drives tour buses now. And I hit him up. I'm like, is this real? Because the first band I really saw do this was the band Cold, which I'm a big fan of. Obviously, Scooter's been on the show a couple times. But I reached out to my friend Jeremy and I was like, hey man, is this a real thing? Like, is there a tour bus shortage? And he was like, yeah, he drives, you know, for a big company. And he said people are like reaching out to him personally, trying to find a bus. Like, do you know a secret stashed bus somewhere type thing? And so when the Cold thing happened, I was like, I don't know, man. I mean, that might just be a nice, you know, way of just canceling a tour and be like, oh man, we can't find a bus. But then Striper does it. And you're like, well, that's a little bit bigger band. And then now Anthrax, you know, I don't know if that's a tour bus issue over there, or if it's just the cost of fuel and the cost of just getting over there. And I'm sure there's COVID insurance still over there, you know, overseas. I think they're taking, you know, way more precautions than they are here now and stuff like that. So yeah, the getting everything together and everybody over there in a full tour across the pond, as they would say, is I'm sure this is not going to be the last of all of this happening.
Yeah. Well, and you know, I mean, it's funny because during COVID, we talked to every band about what was going to happen when everything opened back up and how everybody was going to be on tour at the same time. And the conversation always was, are there going to be venues to play?
Right.
I don't think any of us ever thought about, man, is there going to be a way for them to get from gig to gig? I don't think any of us thought about that. And that is definitely a problem. And God knows we didn't expect this $5, $6 a gallon gas.
Well, the crazy part of it is we were worried about, are there going to be enough venues? But at the same time, a lot of those venues closed down. So you don't even have so the amount of venues is gone. The amount of tour buses is gone. The amount of bands that need to be on the road to make money is up. Yeah. So they keep adding bands and bands to like even Louder Than Life here that's here in a few weeks. They just added on a ton of bands. Yeah. And then the Blue Ridge Rock Fest, which is the big crazy one that's in like Virginia, released at set times. And just every single stage, every single day, like you're not getting just no-name bands opening this thing. It's like band you've heard of from the moment they open the door till and it's big bands. It's like, I don't know how they're paying. Like that's another story. It's just like, how are you paying all of these bands to come play this stuff? And you got bands reuniting, you got Kitty and God Forbid and like doing all these like reunion shows and bands playing specific albums and even all the way up to, you know, Slipknot and Disturbed and all the headlining bands too. It's going to be an insane festival.
Sure. Well, dude, I'm hopeful that what doesn't happen here is the ruination of the baby bands.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's really the smallest bands I think will be okay because they could still get into a minivan and go, you know, on their own. But I'm talking about like the 1,500 seat draw bands.
Yeah.
You know, those bands are really going to have a hard time because, you know, their production is big enough that they can't really do that with a minivan, you know, maybe with a trailer and.
Well, you're just going to have to do box truck, semi, and really
lose your ass.
Lose your ass. B, you know, move into the Sprinter vans and you know, more flying, I guess, too. You can even do that. I mean, you're not going to have the comfort of a bus. I think you're going to you're gonna have to swallow some pride and maybe go back to the van days, or just more vans and hotels just in between gigs.
Yeah, I don't know about the flying though part either, because I mean,
too.
well, I mean, the airlines are a disaster, but fly-in dates are usually Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Right.
Well, I don't think those dates are open for the next year at any venue.
Right.
I mean, if you're going to do a fly-in date now, if you're going to pick up a fly-in date, it better be for a Tuesday or a Monday. Because those are the dates that might have availability. No viable venue has a Friday, Saturday, or Sunday available right now. None. It's a weird time for this whole thing, man. I'm really curious. I keep seeing bands that are announcing these tours, and I'm like, yeah, this shit ain't happening. I just look at it. I'm like, there's no way. There's just no way. And I'm not picking on this guy. I'm just saying, just in general. I just saw that Udo announced a bunch of dates. And I'm just like, is he really going to be able to is he going to be able to find a bus? Is he going to be able to pay for a bus with, he plays for 1,000 people maybe?
Right.
I don't think he plays for more than that, does he? I don't think so.
I wouldn't think so.
Not here in the States. And I love him, but I just see that as a lose money proposition for him to bring over, 8 guys or whatever. There's 5 guys with his band and 2 or 3 techs.
Yeah, it's just going to be nuts to finally see everybody out there on the road again, trying to get everything going, man. I think it's funny. Like, I remember back in the day, like when, in the 2002 Primer 55 tour that I did, we actually did 2 minivans.
Right.
And it was one of the more bizarre tours. We actually had this 18 passenger van trailer thing set up. And then when we got there, something to do with insurance or something,
right,
we couldn't drive off the Enterprise lot with it. They're like, but we can get you with these 2 minivans. So we ended up out there opening for dope in these little Chevy Astro vans or something. It was one of the more insane tours I think I've ever been a part of.
That's funny. That's crazy. Well, hopefully this doesn't affect the rumored Primer 55 reunion.
Well, I mean, that we can push that out to 2023 if we need to.
I mean, that's clearly private jet, right? And so that's not affected yet.
Right. Yeah. You could definitely private jet. Definitely, we'll do maybe 1 or 2 shows a week and fly home after every show. Very a la Metallica.
Sure. Just private jet to the stadium of choice, play that show, go home.
Yeah. There we go.
Nice.
Well, hopefully Corey Taylor will be stoked about that, because Corey Taylor is stoked about the Pantera reunion and says that it will be done with respect. So Corey Taylor went on Sirius XM's Trunk Nation with Eddie Trunk, not the Talk to Me podcast. Point that out there. Have you noticed also that I think Blabbermouth has pulled 3 things from this interview so far? Like, they are just milking this, because I mean, you and I both know that typically Blabbermouth will only touch 1 thing per interview.
Yeah.
And I've lucked out maybe once or twice and gotten 2 things pulled, but never 3.
Yeah. I've never had 3. I've had 2.
Yeah. And it's because they'll pull 1 thing from the YouTube clip and then 1 thing from the podcast. They'll even they'll mix it up, man. They don't stick with 1 thing. But Corey Taylor went on the Eddie Trunk show, Trunk Nation, and says, I know everyone in the current Pantera band. I knew everyone in the prior band. So it's interesting. I know there's a lot of debate about it. All I'm going to say is that I'm stoked to see these guys play these songs live, and I'm stoked to see it done with respect.
Me too. Bravo, Corey.
I agree, Corey Taylor.
Yeah, Corey Taylor. That guy always has knowledge. He's always spitting knowledge, man.
Everybody needs to know what Corey Taylor thinks.
Yeah, exactly. Of course, they'll never know it here on Talk to Me, but whatever.
Not yet. They will soon. It's going to happen soon. Just throw it out there in the world, and so.
Yeah, if I buy a Corey Taylor mask.
Something else that everybody loves is Megadeth's Dave Mustaine says that everybody loves James Lomenzo.
Okay.
So speaking to Revolver Magazine, Dave Mustaine stated, why he enlisted Testament's Steve DiGiorgio to play on the Megadeth album. We parted ways with Dave Ellefson, and the idea to get Steve basically was, in the end, it's always going to be my decision, but there are a couple of guys we looked at. We were trying to finish the record, so the criteria for someone to be a session player and finish the record versus the guy that was going to be a band member that we can find right now, that's going to make a commitment and leave what they're doing to come with us. We just didn't have the time, so we sought out for a guy that would help finish the album, and that was Steve. I'm not going to be the guy to poach people from other bands. I hated when Metallica did that with Cliff Burton. I mean, granted, Trauma wasn't a great band, but I think it just sets you up for resentment from people when you go and take their band members. If the guy quits and wants to join your band, that's cool. But if I would have went to Testament and said, hey, I want Steve, or I would just went to Steve and said, hey, I'll give you $1 gazillion, and he quits Testament, you know what would happen? I would lose close friendship with Alex Skolnick and Chuck Billy, and it's not going to go that way.
Yeah, I'll bet he hated it worse when he poached Kirk Hammett from Exodus. Just a hunch. Just a hunch on that one.
Right. Regarding Lomenzo's addition to Megadeth, we welcomed James with open arms, and everybody loves him. He's such a great, great guy. So it wasn't a hard decision at all to make. It was basically calling him, seeing what he was doing. Everybody is really, really happy with him. I haven't really seen that much pushback from fans. I know that the two people that matter the most, besides me, Dirk and Kiko, love him. It's what I wanted. I want to have the four of us playing together and all be comfortable with one another, knowing that there was no weirdness going on or any double dealing or anything like that.
All right. So what is the count? Is the countdown to his extinction started now that he said that everything's perfect?
Everybody loves everybody.
Everybody loves everybody. So who's getting kicked out next?
I just think it's funny because if you changed the name James Lomenzo to Dave Ellefson, this would be the same statement.
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah. He is such a great, great guy. It's such a hard, not a hard decision at all. No pushback from the fans.
Yeah. Well, look, Lomenzo, I don't know if you've ever met him or not, but he is a nice dude. Like he's a little too nice to be in a dirty band like Megadeth, but
right.
He's a great dude and super talented player. It is what it is. Does it really, at this point, does it really matter who's in Megadeth? As long as Mustaine's in there, it really doesn't matter.
Right. I mean, I guess as long as you're skilled enough to play in the band, things like that. I mean, as long as you can do the gig. Yeah. I did see James did a thing for Knotfest when they were doing the metal tour of the year. They were doing some stuff on Instagram Live with like certain band members, and they did all four bass players from the four bands. So James, John Campbell from Lamb of God, James Lomenzo, Paolo from Trivium, and whatnot. So they had all of them together doing some stuff. And James popped off the screen in that. He looked, looked like so much fun.
Yeah. Well, dude, I mean, look, Megadeth is Megadeth. Look, I'm Team Ellefson. I'm going to stay Team Ellefson. I'm going to support Death, not Death, I guess. But let me rephrase that, because I wanted to not support this new Megadeth, but all three songs I've heard have kicked ass.
Yeah, it's been great. They've been.
That's the worst part. Is I hate to admit this, but I will admit it. I was hoping for another Super Collider so I could be like, see, that's what you get, man.
and they come back with some of the best songs they've had in years.
Yeah, in decades. I mean, this is the best sounding music that they've had, closest to classic Megadeth since what? Since like United Abominations, maybe?
Yeah.
And that's what, 2004, 3, something like that.
Yeah, I'm definitely 100% on board once this Megadeth record comes out. I can't wait.
Yeah, and that's what. Do we still have another month to wait for that, or is that actually coming? I don't remember when that's coming out.
Well, let's see. I thought
seems like we've been waiting forever, doesn't it?
The anticipation. It's just because you and I don't have it early.
Yeah, well, that's it too. Why don't we have it early?
I don't know. September 2nd. So this week.
Oh, Friday.
Yeah.
Nice. All right.
Tomorrow, when you're listening to this, it'll be out tomorrow.
Yeah. All right. Boy, we're well informed. When's it come out? Ever? Yeah.
I think it's out in like 2024.
Well, dude, it's like a band that I'm thinking like that with is Queensryche, which I don't think you're a huge fan of, but they've released like 3 or 4 singles for that album.
Okay.
When do you think that comes out?
3 or 4 singles means it should be out by the end of the month.
Yeah, not till October.
There's
still another month. They're going to release half the album before they put out the actual album itself. It's like, what are they doing? You know, put it out already.
So moving on to Lamb of God's Randy Bly on Phil Demmel filling in for Willie Adler. He's a phenomenally talented guy.
Wow. That's a stunning comment there.
So another friend of the show, Phil Demmel, out there basically filling in for everyone in Lamb of God.
Mm-hmm.
I do have an interview with Art Cruz coming up, and I think my first joke will be, when will Phil be filling in for you? But,
nice.
Take that off the top for him there.
Sure.
Lamb of God singer. Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
Lamb of God singer Randy Bly discussed Demmel's involvement with the band during an interview with Bloodstock TV's Oren O'Byrne.
Yeah, that guy.
After Oren noted how talented Demmel is to be able to step in on a moment's notice, Bly said, "We make him put in the work, though. To be fair, the guitar parts aren't easy. We are playing a song tonight, the Faded Line, and that's a song that hasn't been in our set for a while because some of the guys are like, oh, this is hard." And it's like, no, we need to do this. And even he was just like, oh, we've got to learn that. That's a fucked up riff.
Right.
But we saw Phil fill in for Slayer on like 2 days notice in Europe at the end of the Slayer tour because Gary Holt's dad was passing away. R.I.P. And Phil came over and killed it. We've known him for many years. There's never really been any question of whether he can do it. He's a phenomenally talented guy.
Don't disagree with any of that. That's all very truthful. That's another one though, where we were just talking about the Megadeth and kind of secretly hoping it wasn't good.
Right.
I think I don't know about you, but I was doing the same thing with the Machine Head.
Oh, yeah.
Because of Phil Demmel, because I'm absolutely a fan. I'm definitely a Team Phil guy, not a Team Rob Flynn guy. And then the Machine Head came out and absolutely destroys.
Yeah,
it's like, damn it.
Yeah, I was gonna bring that up in the recommendations at the end, man.
Sure.
That album it's getting many spins in my car.
Mm-hmm.
Like it won't go away. It's so good.
Yeah, it's would you put it with the first album or the Blackening, which I think are pretty much universally considered the two best?
Oh, yeah. I mean, definitely put it in there with the first album and the Blackening. I see the first album of Machine Head and the Blackening is almost like two eras of the band. So
Sure.
This one definitely fits in more with the Blackening era,
Right?
Like just the more self-indulgent 10-minute songs and things like that. But yeah, it's definitely one of their better albums. Even he's singing more on it too, and
yeah.
I'm like, I kind of dig Rob Flynn's singing voice.
Yeah. Well, I said to you when we first got it, I was like, I thought that was Howard Jones. I really thought that the low vocal that he was doing was Howard Jones, and it's Rob. I was like, damn, when did he just develop that sound?
I do wonder. Speaking of Phil Demmel and being, filling in for Lamb of God, because he's done both guitar parts and the bass player. And then it came out that Howard Jones was kind of the standby guy for Lamb of God for a little bit, but that was only on the first leg of the tour. That's why, Mark Hunter and the other guy came in and filled in on the second part of the tour. So I'm going to ask in the interview with Art, I'm going to ask who his standby guy is. I wonder if he'll tell me.
Yeah. Probably won't tell you.
Probably be Phil Demmel. It probably just is Phil Demmel. But what's that is crazy that Phil learned both guitar players' parts. Because I honestly I think it would be easier for Willie or Mark to learn to play the other person's parts.
Sure.
and just have Phil learn like a specific part, like like Phil just learn all of Willie's parts, and then but then if Mark has to fall out, I feel like it would almost be easier for Willie just be like, I'll just play Mark's parts and you play my part. I don't know. It just sounds crazy. And then for him to just be like, oh yeah, also you're the bass player too.
Sure. Well, dude, here's the real question that I want to know. And we've both have interviewed Demmel, so one of us is probably going to get the chance to do it again.
Right.
I got to know what he thinks of this record, the Machine Head record.
I think I got
to ask him, and if I ask him, it's going to be like, and don't give me the stock answer. You know,
I haven't listened to it yet.
Yeah, I don't want that, and I don't want. It's okay, you know. I want him to say, yeah, I hated Catharsis. This is what I wanted to do. Why couldn't we do this? You know, and you know that's got to be his opinion, don't you think?
Oh, yeah. You would hope so. I mean, honestly, I could see him honestly not listening to it. I could see him just being like, you know what? I don't even care.
Man, I always hear people say that. I can't imagine that. Anything that I've ever done, if I've left it, I pay like ridiculous amounts of attention to it, like constantly. Dude, when I was off the CMS for 2 years, I still listened damn near every week. I might as well have put a microphone on because I was listening all the time.
Well, I think in that situation, you left the CMS in a good way. So you left friendly, you know, you were left friendly. So you weren't like, Neely didn't boot you off the show and slander you in the shows afterwards. So you're not like,
true.
You know, fuck that guy, you know, to where I think that Phil left the band probably with a bad taste in his mouth.
Yeah.
So yeah, he definitely,
and they both took shots at each other. So
yeah,
you're probably right on that. Be interesting to ask him and get the real answer and not the interviewee answer.
Yeah. Cause I've been in Primer and left Primer a couple times, and they've put out singles since I've been in the band, and you know I checked them out, and I always checked them out because I was curious to see what they were up to, but we never left on bad terms, and even like my previous.
You never had a thought though of, well, if I was doing this, I'd have played the bass line this way or nothing. You never thought that way?
Yeah, I mean, you definitely think that way. You're like, you definitely do what would I have done here?
Right.
Or I would have, or even the speaking of my first band, the 12 Volt Negative Earth band, fun fact on that one is Chris Cale back in the day was my replacement in that band.
Nice.
And he played on an EP that I had a hand in writing some of it. And so it's funny hearing some of the bass lines that he did as opposed to what I did. And there were a few times where I'm like, I like what I did better. but yeah, I guess I can, on a small scale, put myself in those situations.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it's just interesting. It's the real stuff that nobody ever admits to, you know,
right.
And me and you have done so many interviews and we get that stock answer all the time. Honestly, man, I never heard it. And then when you get backstage with the same guys, they're like, oh man, that fucking record sucks. This song was bad. And I would have done that. You know, you get backstage with them and then you ask them like 6 months later and they're like, oh, I never heard it. You know, it's like, oh, stop lying. Stop lying.
Yeah. You at least got to, you know, give a couple hate listens, you know?
Yes, of course.
Or at least the single or something, you know, you're going to at least like give it a pass through or you know, a drive by. That's what I'm looking for.
Right. And Machine Head, if you're any kind of a metal fan, you're going to hear it. And Phil Demmel's obviously a metal fan. He's going to hear it. You know, hell, there might be discussions about Machine Head opening for Lamb of God on a tour. I mean, that's a legitimate thought. Then what happens?
Do you think that Rob Flynn has listened to the new Violence stuff?
Oh, yes. Rob Flynn probably has 43 notepads of critiquing how he would have done it differently. Rob Flynn, I don't believe, lets anything go. Ever.
Yeah.
You know, yes, he's absolutely listened to every note of it 100 times. No, there's zero question in my mind on that one.
I'll throw this out there. So I interviewed him for Catharsis, Rob Flynn, and we get towards the end, and I guess this is how far back some of these questions have gone. So we got on the topic of Rob and Dimebag's friendship.
Okay.
And so just my brain went to Dimebag and Rob.
Okay.
And so I asked him, would he ever jump up on stage, play Dimebag's parts? And Rob Flynn literally stopped the interview, looked at me like, because we were on camera. Yeah. And he goes, "You're really going to ask me that?" And he goes, "You need to," and it hit me right when because that was not too far after the Rob versus Phil Anselmo stuff.
Right.
And I was just like, oh yeah.
Oh yeah, there's that.
So I quickly just like gathered myself, thought about it for a second, then I asked him a dumb question about the Burn My Eyes video.
Right.
Because in the Burn My Eyes video, he's got that septum ring and it's crooked and it always drove me nuts. So I literally just stopped and I looked at it and I was like, Rob, when you were filming the Burn My Eyes video, did no one ever stop you and like fix your nose ring, your septum ring?
Distract.
Then he started laughing. We had a good rest of the conversation. And, but so yes. And in my history of interviewing people, I have asked Rob Flynn if he would play in Pantera.
All right. Well, if you get Rob Flynn on this time, say, hey, what do you think of this Pantera reunion?
Yeah.
Will you be going to any of those shows, Rob?
It's funny. He actually made the comment once on his show. He called Pantera like he goes, back in the day, we used to call those guys those posers from Texas, because of the the glam days and stuff.
Right. Yeah, but then they toured with them for.
Oh yeah,
I know they toured because I know I went to a show with it was Pantera, Machine Head, and Devil Driver.
Coal Chamber. No, that was Coal Chamber.
Or Coal Chamber, yeah.
Yeah.
But it was the only reason I remember that is because I was backstage hanging at a picnic table with Rob, Phil, and Dez, and some manager guy. And we were, I won't say what everybody was doing, but
you're having a fine time.
We were having a fine conversation, and some people were imbibing in other things. Nice. I'll tell you off here the real story behind that, but wow, it was one of those like I'm clearly not in these guys' category.
Right. Well, speaking of Machine Head's Rob Flynn talking about touring, he says, "I don't know if I can continue touring like this forever."
Okay.
He's talking to Australia's Heavy. Machine Head frontman Rob Flynn spoke out about how he dealt with the downtime during the corona pandemic. He said, "For me, the pandemic has been ... I've enjoyed it probably more than I should say probably. I've been on the road since I was 19 years old. I've never gone on hiatus. I've never taken a break. It's been 30 plus years of nonstop. And whether it was forced or not, it's killer just to have this time to slow down and not be on the road, not be cramming for the next record, not be looking for the next tour. We tour hard too. We do a minimum of 16 months behind any tour cycle. We're doing 3-hour shows and not letting up. It just doesn't end. And then you have to go and write the next record. You start writing again, and then you have this ability to disconnect from tons of bullshit, disconnect from being around other bands and just whatever, and just kind of dig into what we're into and what we're doing and what we're digging on. It was really inspiring, man. And it was really needed. I think I needed that. I didn't realize how much I needed a break until I was having a break. And I was like, Jesus, I really enjoy this."
Sure. What he really needs to think about, and at me, the expert that I am, because I have a camera and a microphone.
Yes, yes, you are. Professional journalist.
That's right. What he should really focus on a little bit is, one, he's got to cut those tours down. I mean, 16 months is in today's world, that's too long. Because people don't ingest albums that way anymore. He should probably just put out 4 songs and record and tour for 4 months.
Right.
Like do an East Coast run with 4 songs, then take a month or 2 off and then release 4 more songs and then do the West Coast, and do it like that. Cause he does put out long albums. They're all very long. And then the other thing, and this is any band, not just Rob, but especially as much as I love that band live, and I will put Machine Head, again, not necessarily a big Rob Flynn fan, but I love Machine Head as a band, and I love seeing them live. I've seen them live at least 20 times. I'm a big fan of them, but man, them shows are, I love that he does 3-hour shows personally, selfishly, but dude, that's way too long for that kind of music. He should be at about an hour 10, an hour 20.
Yeah, I would agree with you had I not seen it, but going to see it,
I've seen it.
I'm saying, like, I'm just saying personally that I've seen it, and I was like, man, this is gonna be a lot. And it was a lot, but they just have so many good songs.
They do.
They just keep going and going and going, and then they're playing, what is it, like Bulldozer or whatever that song is, just stuff like that. And you're like, all right, if we're doing this too, let's do it.
Dude, they ought to do. And again, here we are judging a band that's been successful for 30 fucking years and saying, yeah, this is what you should do.
Yeah, right.
But, I mean, he's got his core songs that he has to play. There's like 6 or 7 that have to be played every night, and then do the Metallica thing, switch it up.
Yeah.
Play 4 or 5, play 3 tunes from the new record and 3 tunes that are different every night so that everybody gets a different show and you don't get burned out. I mean, screaming the way he does for 16 months. And he's right. They go hard. They don't do, when he says they go 16 months, it's not like 2 days on and then 2 days off. And then, they go like 5 nights in a row. Then they take 1 off and then they go 5 more nights in a row. They go really hard. I see where he'd be burned up at the end.
So with the Metallica thing, you want him to do an acoustic medley of The More Things Change? Is that what you're telling me?
I do not want to see that at all. I'd rather, that's the part of the Metallica still at 2.5 hours, but you can cut that out. You can cut all the acoustic crap out and play a nice, tidy hour 30 and everybody would be happy.
Yeah, that'd be great. Ting, ting,
ting, real soft. Bing, bing, bing with a flamenco guitar or something.
Oh man, yeah. So acoustic Machine Head coming your way.
Oof, that would be awful.
Before we get into some what we've been watching lately, some recommendations or whatever, I do want to shout out Ted Hitchman. He was our Louder Than Life winner. He won a 4-day general admission pass to Louder Than Life here in my backyard, Louisville, Kentucky. So that's going to be cool, man. I messaged him that he won, and he was just like, no fucking way. He's like, I've never won anything ever, like totally freaking out. And on a sad note, I saw he posted like 2 days later that his dad passed, which is when my dad passes, like, I don't even know if I'll just come on here and do a show and just be tears the whole time. Like, my dad was so cool. But he messaged me again saying that, it's looking forward to the show has kind of helped him kind of get through this grieving.
That's
so,
cool.
When you don't think that the show is kind of touching people and doing some things, you get like those kind of stories and you're like, man, I was just trying to get some promo for the show. And now I'm over here helping out, people grieving with their passing of their father.
It is always weird how these shows definitely move people in ways that you don't think of. Yeah. Even if it is just taking the shitty part of their day away for an hour or whatever. So sorry to hear that, Ted, but good for him.
Condolences.
Good for him on going.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun, man. I told you the other day, man, I don't need a ton of interviews from the show, once again, because I don't need to do a ton of interviews. And then I wrote down all of the bands on the bills that I've either interviewed before, have connection with their publicist, or or just want to talk to. It's fucking a page full of bands. I'm like, all right. So I sent out emails and stuff and getting a few things. Might be doing something kind of cool with Jelly Roll. I think that'll be fun.
Nice. That'll be cool. And you might be doing something with the one you asked me about. I did text and
nice.
Back, so that's gonna happen. It's just connecting the dots now.
Right. the logistics of it all.
Mhm.
But yeah, so yeah, Louder Than Life is going to be fun. If you're going to Louder Than Life and you've made it this far into the show, into the podcast, reach out to me, and if we get enough people that want to, maybe we can do a little meetup or something. Go hit up a beer tent and a picnic table and hang out for a little bit.
There you go. Very cool. Are you buying?
No. No, depending on how many people meet up, if there's 7 people, everybody chips in $1, buy me a beer. We'll have a good
There you
time.
go. Nice.
But yeah, it'd be fun. Well, let's dive into some recommendations. Do you want to do House of Dragon first, or do you want to hold?
Yeah, we can do House of Dragon. That's fine. We're both watching it.
Is it House of Dragon or House of
the Dragon?
That's what I have it written down that way, so I said it all redonkulous. So House of the Dragon, obviously, Game of Thrones prequel.
Yes.
I was a massive Game of Thrones fan, and then in talking to you about it, you actually just started Game of Thrones, which blows my mind.
I'm on episode 3 of season 1. I haven't gotten far in it. I don't know why. Dude, talk about a perfect Chris Aiken show.
Yeah.
It's all violence and nudity. How did I not watch this for 7 years or whatever? That's beyond me.
Yeah.
And I never did.
Game of Thrones is probably up there with top 5 series of all time for me.
Okay.
That being said, House of the Dragon is starting off very slow. Like with Game of Thrones, I was like, first episode, you got incest and, pushing kids off of ledges and mayhem and all that stuff. So I was just like, whoa, like they're showing this shit on TV. Like I'm all in. House of the Dragon, we're 2 episodes in, and first episode just didn't catch me at all. Like I almost was just like, I don't even know if I want to talk about this. But second episode, now I'm starting to see the lines coming. Yeah, but then there's also a lot of stuff in this show too, where I'm like, are they saying that name for a reason? Like, are they saying that, and I'm trying to go back to Game of Thrones and trying to do the tie-in stuff. So you might actually enjoy House of the Dragon a little bit more, just because you're not like, are they saying this for a reason? Because that's an Easter egg for something coming up or something like that. So
yeah, I'm coming into it stone cold, so I don't know any of these people.
Yeah,
I don't know. I know there's a couple of different family factions, but the House of the Dragon seems to only be really focused on the one.
Yeah.
At least so far. It's just, what are they? The Darkanians or whatever?
Targaryens.
Targaryen. I'd say, I really don't know.
Yeah. That's crazy.
But I mean, it's cool. And obviously, spoiler alert, because we're going to talk a little bit about it. So if you haven't watched yet, you might want to jump out right here. But, yeah, I mean, it's obvious that they're going to build to some sort of a rivalry between the sister and the brother that got pushed out, or was he her brother?
Uncle.
He's her uncle that got pushed away, and obviously the black guy with the predator dreads, he's going to have some influence in pushing the guy with the white hair. I don't know anybody's name. That's the worst. I keep trying to get everybody's names, but there's too many names.
Yeah, I've always been terrible about names in these shows. The one thing about episode 2, and my wife almost turned off the entire series because of the when the 10-year-old girl tried to give herself up as a bride,
right?
And you're like, and the guy is like, what are you talking about? And they're like, oh, but my mother said that I wouldn't have to bed you till I'm 14. And I'm like, oh my God. like I understand that that's what happened back then. And that's a whole thing. But I mean, we really didn't have to go there, but I do see the plot line of it. And he's trying, obviously it upset the predator, gentleman there towards the end. And that's kind of, the fact that he didn't take his daughter's hand is obviously, setting us up for some more stuff, but I'm just like, wow, they were really going there with that.
Yeah. I mean, they definitely don't seem to be worried about any kind of the movements of today. That's for sure. They're pretty sticking it to the way I guess history was, but I don't know. I'm enjoying the shit out of House of the Dragon. I don't know why I never watched Game of Thrones, but I'm getting into that too. It's kind of weird watching them parallel. because it's like I hear names, but I have no idea what they are, and I'm still trying to figure out, how the little dude, what is that dude's name? Peter Dinklage. Is that him? Whatever his name is in the show, I can't, I'm trying to figure out how he plays in. And meanwhile, that's probably 50 years after the other one that we're watching, or 100 years after or something, right?
Yeah. I think it's like right around 100 years.
Yeah. So it's kind of crazy doing it the way I'm doing it, but whatever. I need to fill my time with something, I guess. So
yeah, Tyrion Lannister. Yeah. That whole show, man, like I almost envy you the fact that you get to just kind of sit down and watch all of this all at once. Because you've got so much stuff coming up in seasons, seasons after this,
right?
The Red Wedding and all that.
Right. As soon as I get, I know what's going to happen though. I'm going to get into like seasons like 3 and 4 or whatever of Game of Thrones, and then I'm going to start going, oh, and then I'm going to end up watching starting over on House of the Dragon.
Yeah, because
I'm going to know that I've missed stuff, that you're probably picking up right away. You're like, oh yeah, that's where this guy comes from, or I know I'm missing a ton of it because I have no backstory.
I personally don't think you're missing a ton yet.
No,
so I don't think there's too many links to the future just yet. I'm trying to figure out who like some of these people's might be the parent of, kind of thing, but that's about all you're really at this point. And I will say with Game of Thrones, you really don't have like, when we talk about like Sons of Anarchy, where that year they went to Ireland for just like too long, that season they went to Ireland, you don't really have anything like that in the middle of Game of Thrones. You don't really get that one season of just like, why are we doing this?
Right. Or in The Sopranos when Tony was having all the dreams, the dream sequence. Ugh, that was terrible.
But yeah, other than the, most people will agree that they don't really care how this series ended, but getting to the end, you're on a fucking roller coaster.
Well, I'm in now. I'll keep you apprised here once I catch up with a show that's 10 years old.
There you go. Yeah. Great show, man. What do you have? Music? Do you have anything music wise you've been watching?
Music
listening
to? Not really. It's a weird band. The only thing I've been listening to, and I was doing it because I had an interview with the band, is this band called Fans of the Dark.
Okay.
Which is it's definitely not this crowd's music, but it's like, if you like that band Night Flight Orchestra that Bjorn from Soilwork does on the side.
Okay.
It's similar to that. It's a bunch of songs that are kind of that whole poppy rock metal fused with disco thing.
Okay.
But they're all written about like horror movies. So like one of the songs is called Night of the Dead, and it's about the movie Night of the Dead and stuff. So, it's pretty cool. The album's called Suburbia. It's out on September the 16th, I believe. And it's cool if you're into that thing. So I'm listening to that. And then TV wise, I've got two things. I've got one, I'm hooked on Stars Network. It's just my favorite network for crime TV, basically for shows that are like The Shield or whatever. They just put out a bunch of them, and 50 Cent wrote a ton of them. And so there's like this series, he calls it his Power series, and there's 4 shows based off of it. There's Force, there's Power, there's Ghost, and there's another one. I forget what the one I want to actually talk about, Raising Canaan.
Nice.
And Raising Canaan is awesome. It is just street thuggery. It's basically the story of a dude that was pretty much a good kid, but his mom was a criminal and his dad was a cop, and he's torn between where to go. And then, you already kind of know where it goes because in one of the other series, he's a prominent player. It's kind of like this whole Game of Thrones House of the Dragon thing.
Right.
It's a prequel of sorts to the Power series. So I'm really digging that show. It's all energy. It's all murder and backstabbing and everything. I love it. It's just, that one's just fun. And then in the not so fun world, there's a documentary on Discovery Plus called Evil by Design, the Peter Nygard story.
I don't know that name.
Yeah, he's a fashion dude.
Okay.
Like he was in the fashion world. I guess he was huge in the fashion world. And it is amazing to me that all these guys with this crazy amount of money are all like Epsteins. This is another Epstein dude. Like he had that kind of money, like ridiculous money. He had his own like part of an island in the Bahamas, that was built all crazy, and he took people out there. He's a real creepy looking dude. Like he really looks like a fucking creep. But he wanted to be Hugh Hefner, but more than Hugh Hefner. So every time he went anywhere, he showed up with 2 20-year-olds at a time, on each arm. So everywhere he goes, he has 4 chicks with him, and just was throwing all these crazy parties and stuff. He'd fly in, he'd find one girl that was like 16 years old. He'd be like, yeah, bring your friends here. We'll send the private jet. And he'd fly like 20 girls out to his house. And then he would have these quote unquote pillow parties and stuff. I mean, it's crazy.
Oof.
It's really nutty. And when you see this guy, he looks like, remember Fabio back in the day?
Okay.
If you put Fabio in a time machine and made him like 50 years older, where he looks like a creepy mess, that's what he looks like. He looks like a creepy Fabio, but even though he's like 70 years old, he's still wearing the zipper shirt that's all the way zipped down to his belly button. And, he's creeping on like 16-year-olds and 20-year-olds. And I mean, it's real fucking creep, but just how these guys with this money, when they get that, I don't know what happens to them.
Yeah, we've had that talk before, man. I don't know what happened. Like once you get to a certain financial state, you're just like the last thing to buy are minors.
Yeah. Well, it's almost like, well, you can buy everything else. This is the one thing that you can't just have. So it's the one thing that they all just go after. But yeah, this guy is, they said in the documentary, I mean, it's pretty fucked up to the point that even his own kid turned evidence to the FBI on this guy, and changed his name so he wouldn't be even, thought of as part of this guy's family. I mean, it's a mess. They had 125 people that actually filed complaints against him. And one of the detectives said that they think that that's maybe 1/10 of what should. Jeez. But so many of them already got money and signed NDAs to just keep their mouth shut. So they think that he raped like 1,200 women. I mean, it's fucking nuts.
Wow.
So
people,
it's a crazy documentary to say the least. I know it's not the most happy topic in the world, but but it's nutty.
Wow. I've been listening to the new Lamb of God. I will say that if you're a Lamb of God fan, you're going to love it thoroughly.
How does it relate? I have not heard it yet. How does it rate? Does it go older school or does it go more like the last one?
I think it's older school.
Okay.
I think if you're a Lamb of God, like an old school Lamb of God fan, I think you're going to like it a lot. Yeah, it just hits it. Lamb of God's one of those bands where I don't understand why there's so much hate with them. Like they're a band that are just like, they put on a great live show. Randy's got an awesome voice. Their music's good. Like they're one I was just like, oh man, I'm so sick of. I guess maybe I could see sick of because they do kind of tend to. They were on the Slayer tour for so long, and
Slayer, kind of Metallica, Slipknot. I mean, they played. They were the opener for how many big tours?
But as for like, unless you just don't like screaming. You want some more melody in your vocals, then I get it. But if you're just a metal fan, I don't see why metal fans hate on Lamb of God. But yeah, new album, really good. Spoiler alert. Another album I've been checking, I checked out today was the new I Prevail, called True Power. The band that I've kind of like we were talking earlier with Gojira and stuff like that. Like a band I've always kind of dug, but I haven't really dove into the catalog. I saw their new album is out. It's very, very two halves. Like the first half is super heavy, but they do kind of have like a more singy choruses and whatnot. Second half of the album gets super like new metal and rappy. I was like, where did this come from?
Nice.
But yeah, man, like the heavy, like when it goes heavy, it's like perfect. And then it's got some kind of sing along choruses. You're like, all right, I can dig this. So the new I Prevail, I really enjoy. Something I gave a recommendation for a month or two ago was the new Muse. They released the song "Killer Be Killed," and I thought it was going to be an amazing album. And I love old school Muse. Like I'm a fan. And I was just like, what is this? when I listen, it's called Will of the People. And aside from the Killer Be Killed and maybe like one other part, it is just, I'm like, what is going on here? It almost sounds like an 80s synth pop album. And I'm like, what is going on? Well, what are we doing, people? Like,
nice.
This doesn't remind me of Muse at all.
Flock of seagulls style.
Yeah, I'm just like, I'm waiting for Aha to jump out of my fucking. But yeah, so not a big fan of the new Muse.
All right.
So yeah, once the Lamb of God album comes out, you guys will enjoy, and the new I Prevail that is out is very good.
Cool. Very good.
Other than that, I think we're good, right?
I think we gave the people enough of our greatness.
So yeah, over the next few weeks, I will be heading to Nashville once a week for rehearsal.
Ooh.
Get to go back into band rehearsal. I'm sure some photos will come from that. Definitely
Shoot some video.
Yeah, definitely to be shooting some video. Hitting the treadmill, lost like 7 pounds. I don't want to be fat guy on stage, Like I don't know. Were you and I talking about this on the phone the other day, man? Some of these people that are coming to the show haven't seen me in 20 years, so I don't want them to be like, "Oh my god, like what happened to me?" So
will you put your hair in dreadlocks just for that night?
Not for that night, but I think that's too long of a process. but luckily my hair is long and I still have it. So
right.
Other than that, at least I'm not showing up looking like I just got off my job at the the call center or something.
Right. Sure.
Well, so the next couple of weeks I'll be in Nashville doing rehearsal, then the show on the 18th, and then right after that, the next weekend is Louder Than Life. So gonna have lots to talk about.
Very cool, man.
Other than that, man, for the Talk To Me podcast here, notfest.com, I've been Joshua Toomey.
I'm still Chris Aiken.
Tighten up.
Boo.